Namaste, friends. The topic of today's discussion is data collection methods. In a way, data collection is required in any of the researches, but especially we will be dealing with the researches in the case of medical education technology. And we will be dealing with two parts of it, that is data collection methods. Two methods we will be describing. One is survey and the other is interview. We have following specific learning objectives in front of us. While we will be going through this presentation, at the end of the presentation, we should be able to first define what is data and its type. That is, definition of the data and its type. Definition. Secondly, enumerating the various data collection methods. We want to enumerate various data collection methods. Out of that, obviously, we will be seeing two methods of data collection, that is interviews and the surveys. Enumerate the steps in the conduction of interviews and surveys. Are there any steps we are required to carry out towards the conduction of the interviews and the surveys, and mentioning the advantages and disadvantages of interviews and the survey methodologies. Now, coming to this particular part, data. What do you mean by data? Data is something, an information, but not any information. Otherwise, we have number of informations about which we do not do any processing, neither we come out with the systematic type of the data analysis and conclusion. But if we collect an information organized way for analyzing something, then that information we will call it as data. So it means that not any information is data. Data is the information that is collected systematically, arranged systematically, analyzed systematically to draw some rational conclusions. So that is what is there. Data is a plural of the Latin word datum. Datum means something that is being given, that is what is the data. Now see, any of the data is of two types mainly. One is qualitative data and the other is quantitative data. Qualitative data is something where we cannot quantify it in 1, 2, 3, 4. Suppose I say that I attended one workshop and it was a great fun. How much great fun? 1, 2, 3, 4. That we will not be able to quantify. So that's why we call it as what? Qualitative data. And then we have quantitative data, quantifiable. That is, we will be able to quantify it into 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is what is the quantitative data. Quantitative data is of two types, that is discrete and continuous. The first one is discrete and the second one is continuous. Discrete will always be in the form of an integer. There will not be point. It will be 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 100, but never 100.6, 100.3. What are these data? Suppose I say number of males and number of females, number of girl child, number of the male child. So that particular thing cannot be 5.6, 6.4, number of births and number of deaths. So these are the discrete. But continuous, if I say length of a particular substance, or if I say average marks obtained, then those can be there in the form of a points, that is 3.2, 4.2, maybe 16.5. So that is what is called as continuous. So we have qualitative, which we will not be able to quantify, quality is there, and quantitative, discrete and continuous. All the types of data can be there in our researches. Maybe our research is dealing solely with qualitative data or solely with quantitative data, or there is kind of a mixture of the data with us. Both the data can be analyzed. There are different methods for analyzing the qualitative and the quantitative data. We will have one more example to understand it better. We know this is Everest, world's highest peak, and its length is 8,848 meters. What kind of data we are dealing with? Definitely the quantitative data, and even in the quantitative data, we are dealing with the continuous type of data, because there can be chances that its length will be in the form of some points, 0.2, 0.3, 0.45, something like that. Next, we know he was President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam. If we want to describe him, how we can describe him? We can describe him great president, undoubtedly. He was people's president, very popular, teacher president, and he was a non-corrupt person. But how much of great president? How much of people's president? How much of non-corrupt? How much of teacher president? That we will not be able to quantify. So this is a qualitative type of a data that we are dealing with, definitely. So can you see, this is the qualitative type of a data, and then quantitative type of data also. Quantitative type of a data can be analyzed using the various statistical methods altogether. Most of the statistical methods, they apply well to quantitative data, but that doesn't mean that the qualitative data are of no use. Qualitative data are of great use whenever we want to have the feedbacks from the people, when we want to have the perceptions of either students or the stakeholders or the facilitators towards a particular methodology, then qualitative data is quite important. And there are various ways in which we will analyze this qualitative data. Data can also be primary or secondary. What do you mean by the primary data? Primary data is something which is collected by the investigator. Investigator collects the data, and the secondary data, what it says, collected by someone else for some other purpose, but utilized by the investigator. There is one cartoon which says that a person is saying to other, get all the information you can to me, I will think how to use it later. So that is what is secondary data. One of the classical examples is, suppose we want to analyze the results of a particular subject, say pharmacology, since last 5 years of a university examination. I am approaching the university officials and asking them to share the data of last 5 years of various examinations conducted in pharmacology. Are they collecting the data for my purpose, for our research purpose? No, they have their own purpose, passing, failing, or grading the students. But now I am utilizing this with their permission in my study, so this will be a kind of what? The secondary data. In comparison to that, I am going to the students, asking them the questions, collecting the data, analyzing it. That is what is the primary data which is there. Now let us see the difference between method and technique. These are two words many a times used synonymously, but they are not. Data collection methods, we say. Method is something, a methodology, a technicality which goes, the steps which are to be followed. But when the methodology is done again and again, again and again, again and again, you develop a kind of technique which is there. To understand it, we will have an example. Method is the procedure. There can be one book written on how to play cricket. That is a methodology how to play cricket scientifically. But that methodology, when it is practiced again and again, it becomes what? It becomes technique. We say the technique with which a batsman plays the cricket, not the methodology, because the person has used it again and again. So what is the thing to be taken here? That is, yes, we are going to see the research methodology for the interviews as well as the survey, but when we will do it again and again, we will develop a technique out of these two. So if we are discussing two methods, there must be many. So these are at least Like group discussions are there, observations are there, interviews are there, and surveys are there. Out of this, what we will be seeing are the interviews and the survey methods. Now coming to interview. What is the meaning of interview? It stands for inter. Inter means in between. At least there should be two persons for the interview, two or more. There cannot be interview with one person because it is interview. So it is a conversation. Inter means between the individuals. What for? To know each other's views. That is what is called as the interview, to know the views. So it is a conversation amongst the individuals to know the views. That is what is interview. Now interviews are of two types mainly. The first is informal interview. You see, whenever we converse with each other, indirectly we are utilizing this methodology of interviewing. Suppose a friend comes to me after a long gap, we are very happy, we go out in the restaurant and we ask each other many questions, and informally we are giving the answers, but we are recording something. Yes, my friend has done post graduation, he has done the super specialty, now he is in such and such hospital, he is doing very well. All this thing is recorded, but how? In very informal manner. And then there is in-depth interview. Can you see the difference between the two pictures? This in-depth interview is a quite serious business altogether, because ultimately we want to select the people out of that. We want to give some marks, grades to the people out of that. We want to collect some serious information to be put in the form of the charts, in the form of tables, and analyzed, probably using the statistical methodologies. So that is called as in-depth. So what we will be dealing with in medical education technology? Mostly in-depth interviews. But you see, informal interviews are also important, because any in-depth interview has its roots in that informal interviews. For example, informally, I come to know that a particular subject is difficult for the students to understand. This is informally I came to know from 2-3 students or maybe one of the teachers. But when I want to go in depth of it, what is the problem? Is there problem with the teacher? Is there problem with the students or teaching learning methodology? That for I will go for what? In-depth interviews. So always for in-depth interviews, the first step is informal interview, or I will say informal information that we get. When is the interview appropriate? When can we go for that? The first, qualitative or descriptive information. What do you think about this? That is what is interview. Interview is not something ticking something. What do you think about it? When the person says, person can go on explaining the things. Why do you think that there is a problem of understanding this particular topic in this particular subject by the students? Yes, the person can go on narrating the things. So that is what is qualitative or descriptive information. To understand the experiences. Experiences cannot be put in yes or no. Experiences cannot be quantified. These are always qualitative experience. You have attended a beautiful class by a very good teacher. Now you cannot quantify that. You have to understand what are the experiences of the students about that. To generate the recommendations, from that we can generate some recommendations. And preliminary information to design what? Quantitative study. Maybe we will be able to quantify the things like in the form of a Likert scale. Strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Or you will say at how much happiness you had in the scale of 1 to 10. 1 is sad and a 10 is very happy. So in that way, we can design a quantitative study. What are the steps in conduction of the interviews? We must have seen number of interviews, especially on the televisions or electronic media, we see. And what they follow is what is being given in the textbooks of medical education technology as it is. How this is? You know this particular thing, It is a very popular TV show where Rajesh Sharma interviews very important personalities. Now let us see how he follows the things, or for that matter any of the person who has these interview shows conducting. Step 1, formulate a study question. He always comes with questions. What is the study questions? As for this particular episode, the question was, how will BJP fare in the following Lok Sabha elections? So that was the main question which was there. Then prepare short interview guide. Can you see what he is carrying? This is a short interview guide which is there. He comes with a very good homework, but interview guide is short. It is not a very voluminous thing that he is carrying. Short interview guide. Then third, select the key informant. He has definitely selected the key informant here in the form of Modi ji. Because this question is to be posed to somebody very important. We cannot pose this particular important question to a block development officer who is working at the district level. No, not at all. He is not the key informant. So he has selected really the key informants. What it suggests for us? Suppose I want to analyze the slow learners or potential learners, then I should not ask the questions to the rapid learners. I should ask the question to that particular student who has scored less or maybe have failed in the examination. That is what is key inform. Then conduction of the interview, we know how nicely the interview gets conducted. And fifth is, while the whole thing is going on, we should take the adequate notes. What this person is doing? Taking the adequate notes. Either you can record the interview, but many a times the students, teachers, they don't go well whenever we record something. But we can have a scribe who is writing down what are the outcomes of this interview. And finally, we analyze the interview data, maybe qualitative, quantitative way, mostly qualitative. And seventh, check for reliability and validity, whether this data is reliable or valid or not. The more your data is reliable, the more your conclusions are valid, the more robust will be your data analysis. So which are the 7 steps which are there? You have to formulate a study question, prepare short interview guide, select key informants, conduct the interview, take the adequate notes, analyze the interview data, and check for reliability and the validity. What are the advantages and disadvantages? Everything in this world comes with advantage, disadvantage. Why not this particular? So advantages, interviews typically allow for more focused discussions and follow-up questions. Very important. You have your interview guide, but after asking a question, the person who is to be interviewed says that I am not getting this question. What this question is? You will have to explain then and there only. Or depending on the answers you receive, some new questions can be formulated. So that is very important. Individuals may offer information in interview that they won't offer in a group probing. You ask the whole class, what do you think about this problem of having the low results in a particular subject? Nobody will stand up and tell, because it is always awkward for the people. But you call them individually, ask them the questions, yes, they will open up. So that is what is an important advantage. The interviewer can observe the non-verbal behaviors. Non-verbal behaviors. What is whether the person is eyesight, then hand movements. From that, the experienced person can definitely have a bit of idea as to what the answers given are right or wrong. Are the answers given are under pressure or not? So that is the thing which we can analyze. And new questions will be formulated. We have spoken about that. But what are the disadvantages? Some requirement for the interviewers and interviews can be significant. Time requirement. It requires a lot of time. Yes. And even for that particular interview, if you are requiring say 1 hour, a kind of preparation of 6 hours goes before that particular interview gets conducted. So it's 6 hours or more than that, maybe sometimes days. The results of multiple interviews may contradict. Some people have the habit. They will say one thing to the and give one answer to the one question posed today. The same question you pose tomorrow or day after, the context remaining the same, they will answer differently. So that is another thing. So number of interviews conduction is quite important. Interviews may be biased or represented only a limited perspective. If the person to be interviewed is biased towards a particular thought, towards a particular personality, the person will not talk about the contradictory thoughts or the personality who he doesn't go along with nicely. That particular thing also is to be taken into consideration. Now, this is regarding the interviews. So, what is to be taken from this? So, in the medical education technology, if you want to conduct the interviews, all these 7 steps are to be followed. Interviews either can be conducted 1:1 or in the form of groups, maybe small group. You are conducting into 3 or 4 students. That is called as focused group discussions. Rather than calling it an interview, we call it as a discussion. You can have your own views. You can ask regarding what are the counter views on those and what are the views of those whom we are interviewing. With this, we will move on to the next topic, that is the survey. Survey is something which gives you a very specific answers to very specific questions. If we just imagine survey, what comes in front of our mind is some questionnaire which is either being ticked by ourselves or some person is asking us question and ticking some of the responses that are being given. So it is a systematic way to collect information from the people in systematic and standardized manner. It looks like this in a standardized manner. So it need not be that as in the case of the interview, the person who is interviewing should be very well versed with the topic. This may not be. That you are giving a survey question either directly to the people or some people are hired who are asking these questions on behalf of you. So that is what is the survey. How the survey? Face to face, mail, electronic, telephone, combined, single or repeated time. But which is the most effective? Face to face is the most effective. If you mail a survey questionnaire to the people, they may not respond. If you contact them on phone, they may not pick up the phone or they may not continue. They may not like to continue with that. So face to face is quite important. A survey is a written set of questions and statements to gather information from many responders. Either it is text or it can be verbal. Generally, it is conducted in the community. Yeah, it is conducted under community. I want to know the views, and there are 250 students in the class. I cannot conduct 1:1 interview. Neither focus group discussions are helping me. So what I will do? Survey. Nowadays, in this electronic era, we have the electronic forms, Google Forms and other things which are available, which can be sent to all, and then they will tick the things or fill those forms. Appropriate for which data? Quantifiable data. Quantifiable. Now here I will try to explain this. Quantifiable data means 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Which data becomes quantifiable? When we have closed-ended questions. What closed-ended questions? Means either yes or no. Are you studying in medical college? Answer is yes or no. Do you have pharmacology as a subject to study? Yes or no. So that is what is called as the closed-ended. Open-ended means you are opening the question. What do you think about the difficulty level of subject of pharmacology? Now the person can go on writing paragraphs and paragraphs for this particular thing. This is called as open-ended. Open-ended are generally qualitative, closed-endeds are quantitative. Say 250 students. Out of the 250 students, I pose this question, is pharmacology a difficult subject? Yes or no? Now 200 say that yes and 50 say no. So totally I come to know that how the things are to be quantified. How much percentage they are saying yes, how much percentage they are saying no. So that is fine. Allow us to compare one group of responders to others. very easily, even applying the statistical test. What are the steps putting in together in a survey? Decide what you want to know. Decide whom you want to survey. Very important. The people of interest. Asking the question about subject of pharmacology. Don't ask it to first year medical students who do not know what is pharmacology is. Most appropriate students are the second year medical students to be asked the question. Decide how you conduct the survey. Personally you want to, or you want to hire some people. Both are okay. Create an attractive and easy to read survey. Survey instrument should be easy to read. The person who is conducting the survey, person who is giving the answer, they should be very clear about what the question is. Decide what variables you will extract from the survey, how you will analyze the survey. Very important thing, pilot the test and validate. Now I will be on these two terminologies, validation and certification. Let us try to understand this with an example. What is certification? Certification is done by an expert. I will give you an example. Suppose one wants to design and construct a fan, ceiling fan. Now the person constructs this ceiling fan with exactly what is being given in the bookish things, that how much should be the length, how much should be the breadth, what should be the angles and all these things. And then an expert in that field comes and certifies, oh yes, it is as per the bookish things which are there, I certify it. But the end user is not interested in your certification. End user is interested in circulation of air. So if you put this fan saying that it is certified, but it is not circulating the air, the end user is not interested in that. End user has given 0 marks in validation. So validation is by end user and certification is by an expert. So your questionnaire, first show it to a medical education technology expert. Expert will say, okay, these are the questions which are okay. Sequence he may comment on the grammar and all these things. But show it to 2-3 end users. They may say that we are not getting this question. Probably this terminology is very difficult to us. This jargon we do not know. So accordingly, you will have to validate the whole things for the maximum benefit. Administer the survey, keep the form safely converted into the electronic forms. Analyze obviously with the results. Writing good survey questions. What are the principles? The first and foremost principle, not more than 20 questions. People do not have the patience to answer your questions. Not more than 20. 30, 40, 50 questions, and then people began to tick whatever they want left and right, and you will not get the proper information. Don't test the patience of the people. Understand your research participants, how much they understand, what is the language they understand, what is the extent of understanding in them. Use natural and familiar, no short forms, right? How would you rate JSU? What is Janani Suraksha Yojana? So you should say that this is like Janani. Write items that are clear, precise, and relatively short. So it should be short. One should not feel it as a burden that it is to be answered. Oh, that is no. We should go very smoothly and very easily. Do not use the leading or loaded question, biased questions. How these are? Now, suppose I say, doctors in India have low socioeconomic status. Do you think they are poorly paid? Already I am telling you that a doctor in India has low socioeconomic status. Why should I ask again that do you think these are poorly paid? That is poorly paid only, right? So that is the thing. Next, don't give the answer in the question itself. Avoid double negative. See the thing question. Isn't it a good idea not to use MCQ in the examination? If you read it twice, thrice, you won't get what exactly is. Otherwise, is use of MCQ in the examination good? That's simpler to understand. Determine whether an open and closed-ended questions are asked. Now, this is a suggestion. Out of 20, let 5 questions be open-ended and 15 be closed. There should not be any questionnaire where all the questions are closed-ended. People will go on ticking anything. But when they are asked to note down or write the things, they will have to write what they think. At least 5 questions like this. Avoid double barrel question. What is double barrel question? See, Do you think that students should have more classes about pharmacology and pathology? This is double barrel question. Suppose I don't want more classes of pharmacology and pathology both, or somebody wants more classes in pharmacology, less classes in pathology, or more classes in pathology, less in pharmacology. Where the person will respond? How? So instead of one question, two questions. Do you think that students should have more classes about pharmacology? And second question, do you think that students should have more classes about pathology? So in this way, the things. Develop questionnaire that is easy for the participants to use, perhaps most important. A complication occurs and people lose the interest in giving the information in your survey. If want to give choice, not more than 5. Pilot the question. We have said validation, that is what is piloted. Consider different types of responses, rating scales like very low, very high rating scales. Maybe, can you see? Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, all these scales, or just yes or no. That is what is the thing, how we will be quantifying. Or we can use something very innovative things, rankings. You give the answers, but this is again what? A closed ended. You give the answers and they will rank it according to the importance. Subject X is not being understood by the students well because A, the subject itself is difficult. B, the teachers are not that conversant. C, we don't have teaching learning methodologies which can be utilized for the subjects. D, no practical approach is there towards understanding this particular subject. Now, 4 things we have given and asked the students now arrange it as per the importance, which is the first, which is the second, which is third, and which is fourth. Checklist whether the participants have given all the questions. As far as results are concerned, do not generalize the results. The results are for where the research got conducted. If I am conducting a research in a particular tertiary care hospital in a particular area of India, then that particular research is true for that particular population. We need not generalize the result and it should be for the specific population only. Now, what are the strengths of this particular methodology of survey? Collection of information, we know, from a large samples, from the group also, thousands of people, thousands of participants, you can collect the information from. Then there are two concepts. One is anonymity and other is confidentiality. Let us see these two concepts because these are very important whenever we go for any of the researches and survey. Now coming to the first concept, that of anonymity. Suppose I give you a form, ask to fill it and say that do not put your names or particulars on that particular form, then that is called as anonymity. And if I give you a form to fill, survey form, and if I say that put your name, roll number, batch, anything specific to your personal information on it and give it back to me, and I vouch that the things will be kept as confidential. So one should be very sure as to which principle we are utilizing when we are going for our survey. Survey also generates a secondary data because that data of the survey can be stored and used by somebody else. Good for measuring the attitudes, and obviously it's a type of inexpensive, especially when it comes to the electronic survey, it comes very cheap. It has high reliability and validity provided the things are quite well certified and validated. Certification and validation, we have already spoken about that. Closed-ended items provide exact information to the researcher. So exact information. So they are providing the exact information to the researcher. What it means we will be able to quantify. Suppose I ask that whether XYZ subject, is it a difficult subject? Yes or no? And I pose this question to 200 students. And 150 say yes and 50 say no. So we can definitely quantify that in a percentage. So it says that exact information to the researcher is obtained. Open-ended items can provide detailed information in responders' own words. When open-ended items are there, obviously these are to be analyzed with a kind of expressibility that the researcher, that the persons on whom the research is being done, participants, or are trends that we will see during this particular study in their own words. But there are weaknesses too. What are the weaknesses of the survey? Expert staff is needed, definitely. If you want to appoint a staff for conducting the survey, we will have to train them. So, expert staff is required. Response rate may be low, especially when it is electronic survey. Usually must be kept very short. The people should not feel burdened that a lot of questions are being asked. Short. Non-response to the selective items. There might be non-responses to the selective items. For example, you ask a question, very personal question, which teacher do you think is not teaching well this particular subject? So this is a very personal question. The people will not be able to or will not like to answer such questions. So no personal questions should be asked during the survey. People filling out the questionnaires may not recall the important information or lack the self-awareness. Open-ended items may be difficult for some people because some people are more good in speaking rather than writing. They will not prefer to write more on the survey questions which are open ended. Rather, for them, what you should do, you should conduct an interview so they will speak up. Data analysis can be time consuming, especially open ended. Yeah, you will have to go through very meticulously of the response of each and every participant and note down what are the trends. Not only trends, you will have to note down some of the very peculiar responses in their own words when it comes to the analysis. So now we come to our learning objectives and we will see whether we have fulfilled those or not. At the end of the session, we had decided that we should be able to define what is data. And have we defined? Yes. It's an information gathered for analysis. That is what is data. Then enumerate the various types of data collection method. We have enumerated. And out of that, we have seen two, that is interviews, focus group discussions, and then we have seen the survey methodologies. Enumerate the steps in the conduction of interviews and surveys. We have enumerated the steps. In the interview, we have taken the example of one very popular TV show also for explaining that. Mention the advantages and disadvantages. Those were the final slides where we have come to what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. Now coming to the final slide. Definitely the survey gives answers to the scientific questions, but survey is a very powerful tool. It has given answers to number of intricate questions as well. And this is the example of that. This particular incident happened thousands of years back in India when Gautam Buddha was there, in the era of Gautam Buddha. At that time, there was very small village and one lady was there. Her name was Gautami Brahmani and she had only child. Unfortunately, that child died and she was very much grief stricken and was crying. People were trying to console her, but she could not be. One of the persons said that incidentally, Gautam Buddha will be visiting this village tomorrow. Why don't you take your child, this dead body of your child, to Gautam Buddha? He is being considered as next to God. Some people consider him as the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So why don't you take him to Gautam Buddha? Maybe he will be able to help you. And the next day, Buddha comes. And then this lady goes to Gautam Buddha with her child crying and says that, can you make this child alive. Did Gautam Buddha deliver kind of sermons to her, try to console her? No. He asked her that I can do the things, but please get me some mustard seeds from a home, from a family where nobody has ever died. I can do this for you. And she goes from home to home. Now the survey begins. Now she goes from home to home with only one closed ended question, that has anybody ever died in your family or home? She goes from one home to another with her survey, and what she comes to know is what has happened to her child is not something unusual to happen in this world. There are many sorrowful things that happen in this world, and people are facing it. She gets her answer during that survey only. She did not return back also to Buddha, even to thank him. She gets the realization. In this way, if it can answer such intricate questions, why not? The survey can answer definitely some of the questions that are being posed during our scientific research. So, this is all about the survey and the interviews. Thank you very much for your very patient listening. Thank you.